Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today with Sandra Dee Robinson. She is a television actress. She's a speaker, a trainer, and the founder of Charisma on Camera, as well as the Charismatic Cowgirl Leadership Training. And she's also an author, and she's the author of the book Impact: Secrets to Powerful Personal Presence on Camera and Off. If you have not picked up a copy of that book, I urge you to. It is a fantastic read. And I'm Linda Fisk. I'm the CEO of Leadership Global, and I am absolutely thrilled to welcome all of you to the program today. Now, for those of you that are not yet members of Leadership Global, let me just tell you, it is the most impactful community of extraordinary women in the world. And we help unleash the full potential of high-performing and growth-oriented leaders in confidential, supportive, and private small group and large group communities. Leadership Global helps members accelerate their success by defining their vision, growing their leadership, expanding their influence, and leaving a lasting legacy. So if you're interested in learning more about this remarkable community of women that are leading across business, entertainment, and politics, please don't hesitate to reach out. It would be my pleasure to connect to each and every one of you. Now, to the topic at hand, let me just ask, are you the face of your business? If so, then refining your personal brand, revealing your most authentic self is absolutely the most essential step to creating a legacy for your business. And establishing your authenticity as a leader is absolutely the first step to build a dynamic personal brand. Being true to ourselves is about having the courage to define our own version of what it is to live a successful life and embracing what makes each of us unique. Now more than ever, organizations need authentic leaders who are honest, who are transparent and trusted. Authentic leaders are able to create dynamic personal brands built on trust, engagement, and innovation. And ultimately, they drive results. So how do we build these authentic connections? Well, first, we let our guards down. We step into our authentic selves to seek to see the human beings behind the labels that we attach to both ourselves and to others. And that's why we're so lucky today to be able to welcome Sandra Dee Robinson to the program. Sandra Dee, as I noted, is a television actress. She's a speaker, a trainer, an author, a coach, and a founder. And today she's going to explain why authenticity is needed in your personal branding now more than ever. And we'll also talk about some of the mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they're trying to build their brand. We'll also talk about the 5 elements of the authentic core self and how to create congruency in your brand throughout the customer experience. Now, let me tell you just a moment more about Sandra Dee Robinson. I am absolutely her biggest fan. I have claimed the title president of the Sandra Dee Robinson fan club, but her mission is so inspirational. It's to help move people from where they are to where they are designed to be. All of you know her as a television actress, and she is certainly a former soap opera star that we all recognize, but she's also an international speaker. She's an author, a TV and radio host, and she is a trusted advisor to gifted leaders who feel pulled to create an impact in the world. Sandra Dee founded Charisma on Camera Performance Coaching in 2010 and Horsepower Consulting, which features her equine assisted coaching retreats in 2018. I'm also pleased to announce that we are partnering with Sandra for a weekend retreat in September 24th through the 26th. And if you're interested in being able to be coached by Sandra Dee Robinson for an entire weekend retreat, uniquely and exclusively for Leadership Global members, please let me know. We'd love to have you be with us. Now, let me turn it over to Sandra Dee Robinson. Sandra, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. And another thing about me is I'm a dog lover, as you heard my dogs barking in the background. Reality intrusion. Sorry, that's just kind of what happens, right, with our Zoom calls. But I'm so glad to be here. This is awesome. I know that greatness trickles down from the very top. So I'm a big fan of yours, Linda, too. So we're the Mutual Admiration Society here, and such great energy coming from you all already. I hope that I get to see some more beautiful faces. Those of you that are driving, please, Mary Beth, continue to drive. Don't put on your camera, but would love to see more faces. And if it's okay, Linda, I'd also like to recommend that if they have questions as I'm talking, or there's something that they want, I may even ask some for some feedback on some of the questions. So I'd love for you to at least be able to post in chat, or maybe if it's okay, I can open up their microphone, or you can open up their microphone so we can get some interaction. Because it's not, I don't want to just sit here and talk to a bunch of boxes. I want to feel like I'm actually having a conversation with you, if that's okay. So I think it's important for me to let you know, first of all, where I'm coming from, not just the fact that I was an actress for so long. I mean, I've been in front of the camera since I was 11. That actually does not qualify me to talk about being powerful in my presence or showing you what it takes to be authentic, because what happened was I actually chose acting because that was kind of a survival mechanism for me. I grew up with a little bit of trauma in my background, as I'm sure a lot of people can identify with various elements of that in their own life. And I had some information that was fed to me by my mother. My father was wonderful, but it's really hard to not be around your mother as much as you are and not take some of what she says as actually being valid and true. So I owned a lot of really negative information about me that was not at all true. I think some people can, understand what that feels like, that at some point you go, wait a second, I'm not stupid. Wait a second, I'm not, whatever that label was that someone gave you in your life, whether it was your mother, your sister, your cousin, a bully, an ex-husband, whoever, but we can take on those things and carry them around. And essentially what we're doing is reprogramming ourselves. And it's a program that we kind of want to delete at a certain point if we want to be us at our truest potential. If we want to move to, as Linda said, I like to say, where you're designed to be, designed with a capital D. So if we're really going to be living in that space and finding that strength that comes from our authentic core, which we're going to talk about in a second, then I believe that really has to help us. We really have to help ourselves by understanding how we've been reprogrammed, because we come into this world destined for greatness. We have all of that inside of us. We have no trouble asking for what we want, other than the fact that we can't actually enunciate words. We do believe as a child that if we ask for something, that it's going to show up. It's not until a certain age that we start to go, oh, and start pulling back in. And that's when we start to get that reprogramming. So what I do with people, my private clients, and hopefully people that I touch, is just help you remember all the greatness that is actually inside of you and giving you permission to step into that, to step back into that. So I'm not a guru when I work with people. It was so hard for me sometimes in the beginning of my coaching to actually stand next to people that were gurus, because they'd be up on stage next to me going, I'm going to give you the 10 steps to becoming a 6-figure earner in 6 months. And here's the 5 steps. Here's my blueprint formula. I don't do that because I don't have your blueprint formula. You need your own. You need to go back and remember what the great things are about you. All I do is I give you structure to go back and unveil that stuff. And then I give you the permission to walk in it. So I just hold the place for your greatness in whatever it is that you most want to achieve. So whatever is on your heart, I truly believe that if you have that desire, that you already have inside of you what it takes to make that happen. And you have the resources. You may not see them yet, but I believe that if you have the desire, that there is a way that is already being manifested for you. But you need to do a little work. It's you don't just wish for it and it shows up at the foot of your bed. Wouldn't that be great? That's not really the way things happen. But that survival mechanism I mentioned for me to become an actress was so that I could escape a belief that I had been given, which was life would be better if I hadn't been born. Now, that was true for my mother. I believe that she actually thought her life would be better if I hadn't been born. But I took it as life would be better if I hadn't been born. Do you see the difference? How we escalate that negative thing and make it into something even bigger lie than it was to begin with. So that's where I came from. And so when I discovered acting, it was a way for me to be on the planet and actually get accolades and get paid for it, by golly, while I was being completely inauthentic. So the funny thing is that now I'm teaching how to come from your authentic self and be a strong leader and communicator. And I got paid for decades to be completely inauthentic every single day. But what happens when I did that? Yes, I got paid. I felt safe if I was hiding behind a character. Now, if any of you are artists or artists, musicians, this is very common in that world. So many people, many artists will put their art in front and hide behind it. I was, in essence, doing that. The problem was I didn't want to stay there. I had something inside of me. Remember, I said the desire that you have is already able to be manifested. You've already got something, and the resources that are coming to you, if it's there, there's a way that God has for you to make that happen. So I wasn't really sure what it was, but I knew that there was something that was coming to me that was bigger, and I had to be open for it. And that meant I had to have conversations with, oh my God, strangers. I mean, I couldn't just walk around as my character all the time. I had to actually walk into places as myself, look people in the eye and have a conversation. Believe it or not, I couldn't do that. She mentioned the subtitle of my book has the word powerful presence in it. I was definitely not that. I would go to charity events with a cast. And as long as I was standing, maybe some of you can identify with this, I don't know. As long as I was standing in the chorus, in the crowd, I was fine. And then somebody would turn around. I remember once a very gregarious, outspoken castmate had a microphone in his hand at a children's charity event. I think it was a hospital that we were all there to raise money for, which was great. I wanted to do that. What I didn't want to do was have him turn around with enthusiasm and hand me the microphone and say, here you go, Sandy. What do you think? And I truly blacked out. My knees almost buckled, but I do not remember anything that I said. Yeah, apparently I said something and handed the microphone back immediately as possible and then hid back behind everyone. I was not powerful in my presence at all. I blew opportunities on international talk shows, national talk shows, morning talk shows. And when I say blew, that is a platform. Wherever you are, you have a platform that you can shine your brand from, and you can utilize that for good. I wasn't even able to get the words out of my mouth. So I say that as if it's a regret. It's not. It actually was a wonderful learning experience because it showed me that I had other things in my heart that I wanted to do. Being an actress was great, but the moments that I was able to step out of my shell were when I really connected to a cause, when I felt a conviction to something. Now, we're going to get to this when I talk about the authentic core self. In that moment, and I've seen this with my clients as well, but in that moment that say I was maybe 22 and I was doing a fundraiser for an animal sanctuary that ironically, looking at what I'm doing now, totally fits. I loved the idea of this sanctuary because they rescued animals, exotic animals from everywhere, from roadside zoos that were abandoned to other zoos where they had been abused and such by other zookeepers. They gave them even domestic animals and cows. I remember there was a cow there, but each one of these animals had a story. And not only did they take in these animals, and they lived only by grants and money that was donated by individuals, but they actually put up a plaque for each one of these animals that taught its story, which taught compassion to the kids and the family that was coming around. So it was an educational and wonderful sanctuary for nature's creatures. I felt this was so important at the time that I actually reached out to other superstars that were in NBC, which is where I was working. I bussed in on a school bus, mind you, because my friend had a school bus company, not glamorous. I bussed in from Manhattan to New Jersey, celebrities from Saturday Night Live and a bunch of other soap operas to come and help get up on stage and raise money for this little place. We raised enough for it to run for a whole nother year. I was able to take charge of that. Why? Because that was something that I felt very strongly about. That was in my heart. I was convicted that was the right thing to do. I've seen this with my clients. Had a girl that was collapsing at one of my very first 3-day events that I was doing for on-camera presentation. She stood up in front of 10 people. That's all that was there, and started to just collapse because she was in the focus of everyone. Until I said, do you have your book with you? She had a book of before and afters of the kids that she had helped. Long story short here. she opened up the book and suddenly lifted her head and started telling us about these kids. That's what she was all about. And so in the end of that weekend, by the way, she was my superstar. She ended up looking at herself. I gave her the opportunity to not look at the camera. She was the only one that I said, I'll interview you. Don't have to worry about the camera. She looked at her first take and said, no, I need to say this right into the lens. And she was a superstar. But it was because it was so deeply rooted in her values, in her convictions, and what she wanted to accomplish on the planet. So that's one of the reasons that you also heard Linda in my intro say, I work with people that want to make an impact. It's the name of my book, is Impact. So I really, really get passionate about working with individuals that have a purpose, whether it is directly tied into their business or their business is feeding where their heart wants to remedy something on the planet. So, so that said, I think it's important to know that I didn't come from this gregarious, always want to be in the spotlight kind of place. You know, that's not why I started Charisma on Camera. That's not why I'm able to help people feel comfortable in the spotlight, whatever that is, whether it's video, a boardroom, speaking, keynoting on a stage, which by the way, I love to help people do that have never spoken before. It's my biggest high, I think, is to take someone that has never heard their voice in a microphone and have them totally rock a keynote stage. It's just super fun for me. I'm the one jumping up and down in the front row when that happens, along with everybody else, hopefully, in their standing ovation. But that's the thing that I love. I love to release people into that, because for me, it was a long journey. It was 7 years, 13 different coaches, a gazillion books, conferences, modalities that I learned, certifications that I went through. And in the end, I can comprise all of that, just saying, you know, it's really just loving your authentic self and being brave enough to put that forward, what you stand for no matter what. And let that flavor your brand. So as we said in the beginning, if you are the face of your company, the face of your business, and how many of you are? Yes, you're beautiful faces. So I'm hoping. Yeah. Okay. Good. So if you are the face of your brand, then your personal brand actually is very much connected, if not the same thing as your business brand. It is the foundation for everything. So I want to show you first off why I think that is so important. I'm going to hop onto a share screen. This may look a little sloppy in the beginning because I couldn't quite figure out how to make this fluid. So I'm going to pop onto my messy screen and hit slideshow from current slide. Okay. Can you guys see a picture of a horse? Me and a picture of a horse. Okay. So this is one of the horses that I have here at my place in Austin, and a photo shoot we did a while back. But one of my favorite phrases, and this kind of brings it all to fruition, right? One of my favorite phrases and my personal quote is, you own the magnificence inside of you and the world responds accordingly. And I think that's so important because I have seen it happen time and time again. The more I do the kind of work that I'm driven here to do and designed, I think, to bring to the world, the more I see people do this and the more I see the world react accordingly. Not just the people that you're in contact with, not just the people on the other side of your video or the other side of your podcast or in your audience when you're speaking, but literally the natural world as well. Which is why, as Linda mentioned, the equine retreats are kind of the piece de resistance, because I can help people understand that if they stand a certain way and they use this language, that it really connects with their audience. But when they actually step into that space of their body and are in the present moment, which is really hard for a lot of us, that nature itself will react in a different way to you. It will be responsive to you. And that's what these retreats are all about. And you can see that here. I will say that very rarely will you see me in a photograph, in any photo shoot with my horses, or preferably even when I'm doing a retreat and I take photos, these horses don't have bridles or halters on. They don't have anything that is restraining them. They're choosing to be where they are. So I just think it's important to kind of know where I'm coming from, and hopefully you guys can meet me there too, because I think it's really important. So we talked a bit about coming from the authentic core. So a triangle is the strongest shape in nature, right? It's completely supported. And here, your authentic core is shown being supported by the language and the actions. But most of all, the authentic core consists of the values that you have. Now, this is important because some people they go, oh yeah, I know what my values are. Have you written them down? Have you actually written them down? Do you actually know what they are? Because you should come up with about 20 or more. And the thing is, then you have to narrow it down. I did this work with a CEO friend of mine, and he was so wonderful. When I started Charismatic Cowgirl, he goes, we're going to create this as an entity of its own. What are your values? And I spewed out 6 or 7. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to give you a week. You're going to come up with 50, and then we're going to cut it down to 6. I was like, wait, what? I'm going to what? Seriously, it took us a long time to do this work, but it's just something that I want to leave with you. Write out your values. What are the top 5 or 6? Let those shine through your brand. Now, I've worked with people that said, hey, my religion is very important to me. My faith is very important to me. You can still say that. That can still be part of your brand. And if you're afraid of alienating people with religiosity or with language, I totally get that. But you can still talk on faith. Like if you notice, I say the way people are designed with a capital D. That kind of drops in, hey, I believe in a higher power, okay? And sometimes that's all I need, because most of the people that follow me will eventually find out, yeah, I'm a Jesus girl, okay? And not that you have to be the same to be in my community and to follow me, but those that, that dig that, fine, they're comfortable. I really don't want to alienate anyone, but that is where I come from. So there will be times that I actually use language. I may say the word God, and if that offends somebody, it's okay. They're not my people. So when you're building your personal brand, you may say, hey, my values may not align with everybody. Who cares? You don't need to align with everybody. There are billions and billions and billions of people on the planet. You don't need them all. You only need your people. So the more I've heard Chris Colt, in fact, talk recently about micro niching. I mean, he gets really into niching when he's doing his launches for his challenges. He's known for creating great challenges for people and challenges leading into launches of their product or their service that they're bringing out. And he talked about micro niching. The more specific you can get, as if you're talking to one person with your brand, the clearer it's going to be. And the passions that you have. This includes what you use in your business and what you don't. Don't be afraid to look at me. I finally brought the horses into my business, even before I'd actually integrated fully the equine retreats or anything. But just the fact that I had horses, people go, oh yeah, they'd remember me. I had a plumber that actually started using terminology from his hobby, which I think was racing, because we talked about microseconds and being there on time and how important, all those funny things we put into his messaging. It made him have fun with his messaging, and it really helped people identify him as being different, because how many plumbing companies are out there? Do you even know if you have a preference? The only way that you know what plumbing company is called is which one's going to get there first when your pipe is broken, right? So to stand out in a crowded field, allow these things to come to the fruition. What are your natural given talents? What are your skills that you're really, really good in? Highlight those. Intuition. There's a whole process around intuition that I integrate into the retreats as well, because it's so important. Some of the women that I speak to that have been in corporate for a very long time were actually told, or so they perceived, to not talk about intuition. Don't even go there. That's a woo-woo thing. Well, the funny thing is the top CEOs of the 500 companies have been routinely researched and asked over and over and again, what is your decision process? And they say, I analyze, I do this, I do that, I do this. And every single one of them at the very end goes, and then I go with my gut. Well, guess what that is? That's intuition. So that is part of your authentic nature as well. And then, of course, what are your goals? What are the things that I mentioned that are in your heart? Because those big things are the things that can actually flavor your brand as well. So when that is fully supported by your actions and your language, and keep in mind, this work actually helps decision making. Because when it comes to actions, if you've ever been asked to align with somebody, I love aligning with Linda and Leadership Global, because the values are very, very similar. They match up very well. The passions are in your group, and I can see how strong they are. There's talent, there's skill, there's integrity, there's all these things that I really value that I see. And there's that support, that camaraderie, that compassion and kindness that comes through this organization. And so when she said, hey, let's do something together, I'm like, yes, absolutely. That's a yes. My intuition tells me that aligns with the top of my triangle. And so that helped me to say yes very easily. Now, if ever there's something that, hey, you know what, maybe not, well, you don't want that piece of your triangle getting weak. So be careful what actions you take. It is perfectly okay to say no. I've gotten pretty good at it. I had 1 year in the very beginning of my business where I'm going to say yes. It's a yes year. And I wrote yes. And January 1st, and I said yes to everything for the entire year. Guess what the next year was? It was the year of no. Sometimes, oh, hell no. I mean, you get so overwhelmed and you get very, very tired of spinning your wheels in areas that are not going to benefit you, right? So it really helps to get those actions in alignment. And then language. Language is part of messaging, which is part of creating that brand. And language, I get really specific with my private clients. It's not just, hey, use the word reveal instead of the word, demystify or whatever. They're actually pretty similar, to be honest. But if there's language that is going to serve your, I do assessments. So sometimes you hear me say archetype. I do an archetype assessment of brands with my private clients. And so if it supports their archetype, then that language that goes with that archetype is actually going to be attracting and magnetizing the people that love them to them more than remaining safe with corporate speak. Do you know what I mean by corporate speak, you guys? It's that sort of, it's the stuff that you see a lot on LinkedIn where you look at somebody's description of their job and you just kind of glaze over internally. You're like, okay, the language should be very personal. The more clear you get on your niche and the more clear you are on your authentic core, the easier that actually becomes. And so we talk about the core because the self is like the root of the tree, right? And I do teach performance, of course. I have a whole bunch of slides as I'm going to, at the end of this that I'll talk about how to be on camera and those things. I think I've shared them with Linda before. But that is performance. That goes on top of everything. So when I was learning how to find my own voice, I was getting tapped to host things. So to host infomercials and things like that. And I would stand up and the director would go, just be yourself. And again, I would crumble. And I would rely on my presentation skills and I would do things perfectly. It's kind of like that corporate speak. It's the safe place, I think, to be, but there's no flavor to it. There's nothing that is actually emanating. So in the end, I ended up starting to teach people on camera by teaching television hosts and would-be television hosts. And they would come to me sometimes from another training facility and they would have the skills to stand up right and look in the camera and speak perfectly, but they had no personality. And so that's when I started to realize that tapping to the inside of somebody in order to bring the performance out is actually what is the most powerful thing. If you start with the performance, it's like cutting the blooms off of a tree in the springtime. You get beautiful things sitting in your house for about a week or so, and then what happens? They die. You don't get any fruit from that tree or from those branches that you cut off and just show the performance aspect. And you want fruit. You want fruit in your business. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, I don't want to stop share. Why aren't you moving forward? My slideshow quit moving on me. It's giving me beeps. Let me stop sharing for a second and I'll come back to it. What do we have? Questions? Do you understand what I'm saying so far? Yeah. Yeah,
this has been absolutely terrific, Sandra. I'm so appreciative of you sharing such incredible wisdom. But let me ask about something very specifically. The term authenticity has been overused in marketing for such a long time now. So can you talk a little bit about how you describe the concept of authenticity? Oh. And then also why you think it's garnered so much attention, why this is such an important topic.
The reason, like you had said, that being an authentic leader and authentic communicator is more important now than ever. And I know I'm going to see some head shaking when I say this because it usually happens. We do need it now more than ever. We see through the bull crap, right? That when I first started speaking, there was such a predictable pattern in how people would present from the stage. And you got used to the yes or yes. All these things. And I see smiles of recognition. With all due respect to the people that did those things, that was how people rallied, right? They got their audiences on board and they said, hey, I like to reward people that take quick action. You may still hear some of this stuff, but that language has become so rote that we tune out. Especially, I think, after 2020, we are in a place where we not only want to find how we can come from our authentic self and reconnect with who we are, but we want to be able to spread that throughout our organization as well, because we now understand what it means to have happy, healthy, mentally healthy and happy people that are working in our organization, to be able to support people with that compassion and that kindness. And that comes from being compassionate and kind to yourself. That means that that is true, authentic leadership. You know, Linda and I, and Ali as well, who I think had to hop off. She was going to a doctor's appointment, I believe. So hope all goes well there. But I think we're in an organization called C-Suite. And I just read this morning on LinkedIn that our chief community officer, Trisha Ben, had been interviewed about leadership. And one of the two things that she spoke about the most was authenticity. Authentic team, be leading from authenticity yourself, and then encouraging your team to do the same. Because when you encourage your team to do the things like we just talked about, hey, what are your values? What are the things you most want to accomplish? You know, what are your best skills, your talents? How can we support you in all of those things? And maybe that may mean moving somebody from a position where they are to somewhere else, or shifting what their responsibility is rather than removing them completely, and finding that, hey, that's where they shine. Awesome. They're 3 times more valuable over here because now I know what drives them. And if you work with the drive in people that connects to their passion, then not only are you going to have them happier and healthier, they're going to be more loyal. They're going to love your leadership. And isn't that what true leadership should be? It's not beating somebody over the head and bullying, because that's one of the reasons that people really hated the idea of corporate life to begin with. And there's still a bit of that. You know, I spoke just yesterday on the phone with somebody he said, I couldn't take corporate anymore. And I said, why? And it was the environment that he felt so constricted and shoved into a box. Literally, the cubicle becomes a symbol of being trapped, right? Well, if you're running an organization, you may have to put people in a cubicle, but they don't mentally have to be there in that capacity. They can expand themselves in your organization. And really, if you allow them to be their authentic self, you're going to have them being that much more loyal and loving what they do. And the culture of your company is going to be that much richer for it. And that was something that Trisha was talking about as well, is how to create the culture of a great company. And so, like I said, it starts with you. It starts with you being able and being brave enough to put these things out there, to put these things forward.
I love that. So Sandra, I have one more question, but I'm going to invite our audience to either unmute yourselves and ask, or add it into the chat. If there's something specifically that you'd like Sandra to address, you'd like to add to the conversation, maybe an insight that you have around authenticity, or question you'd like to explore around authenticity, would love to hear from you. But Sandra, one more question for me. You know, we talked at the beginning about how to create congruency in someone's personal brand throughout the customer experience. So if they are the face of their company and they're the face of their brand, how do you create congruency between who they are as a person, as a leader, and also as the face of their company, as the sort of the brand that they represent in the world?
This is great. I'm going to put in the chat right now a free gift that I have that's related to this. You don't have to opt in or anything. It's just freebies. So, and I'll actually share a quick story on this too, with a client that came to me of an example of this. So the touch points of your brand are what I work with my clients. And so the touch points are, I like to separate them into the beginning, the middle, the beginning, like before somebody's working with you, during the process of when you're working with them, and then after, if there is an after, you know, and there usually is, even if you're not, if it's just like, there's going to be a time when, hey, maybe you're not working together quite so much, whatever, there's going to be a time after. So split into those 3 things. The customer experience. What are the touch points in the very beginning? That would be before somebody actually meets you. What are those things? It would be your business card, your voicemail, somebody recommends you, the first page of your website, your LinkedIn profile. All of these things should really just radiate your personal brand, your values, your passions. All of those things should be evident. That's what's going to make you stand out. The reason that this is so important to have that unique, standout capability is, and on that brand bundle that I put in, there's a list of touch points for your brand. So that's something you can go in, download, and go, all right, let me go through this today and see, how am I doing? The one thing, the biggest mistake that I find people make is when I call them up on their phone and they have the automated message that is not their voice. Do you know what I'm talking about? The robotic thing? I don't know about you, but that instantly says to me, they don't take their business personally. They don't take it seriously. They're not invested. If they didn't take the time to do 1 minute of their voice, and if they're that insecure that they don't want to hear their own voice, then they got a lot more work to do before they launch a business. I work with people on insecurity about how they sound and how they look. I get it. But you can't let that get in the way of the first touch point of your brand. So there was a girl that, let's just say she was a supermodel. She's married to a famous athlete, also super duper well-known guy. So the couple is pretty popular. She's an influencer on social media for sure. And she went into a branding company. Now I want you to just picture this. She had on her heart that she wanted to do something because she was always the shadow of her husband. And she had this great following. So she went and she had these ideas of home and beauty products that she wanted to do. She's a very natural girl, kind of like looked up to the Honest Company, something like that. So she walks into a branding company that I also affiliate with. I've helped him out several times with his clients on camera with, different presentation skills and things. She walks into this company and she says, build me a brand. This is what I want to do. Now, when you do that, as she did, in their defense, they did the best they could with what they'd been given. She didn't walk in, as she would have after she worked with me the second time, and say, build me a brand. Here are my values. Here's my goals. This is who I want to touch. These are the people that I feel most connected to. These are when you walk in with that, then they go, all right. And they create something. And then you can look at it and go, not quite right. And you can work together. What she did was she gave over all the power. About $100,000 later, they had designed her logos for her, designed her jars by looking at her competition and deciding this will work. They had launched her a celebrity-studded launch party with the red carpet and all of that, right? And it sounds great. They did a website. They did a pitch deck. So when you look at it, you're like, wow, celebrities everywhere. This seems like a really good thing. It fell flat. Fell completely flat. And when she came to me after suing them, it ended badly. She came back to me and she said, I remember you from when I worked with you with them, and I'd like you to help me. We had one day together. I took her through a branding assessment, a personal branding assessment, because when I asked her, so you worked with them on your brand, what is your brand? Explain it to me. She said, I can't. Explaining your personal brand is simply explaining what you are all about. That's it. There are 4 questions that I want to be able to share with you. If I can go back to the slides real quick, you guys can write these down if you'd like. And I think, let me see. Can I do another share screen, girl? Is that all right, Linda? Real quick. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So this was actually part of the story. Can you see? Yeah.
Yep.
So let me hit slide so you should get a full screen here. That was part of the story. This is all the things they gave her. And in the end, it was nothing. But what we did is we worked through in one day. We got her assessment done so she knew what her archetypes were. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's so me. And there were 4 questions that are part of this process. What do you stand for no matter what? What is it that you stand for no matter what? This could be business related, but chances are if it's something that is so deep rooted in you, it's probably what you stand for in life, no matter what. What is your unique brilliance? Now, I love this term because unique brilliance, we actually create a statement. My unique brilliance is, and I make people stand up and own it. And when it feels awesome and they get chills in their body and they get excited and elated and they get energized, that's it. And the reason to create that is not so that you can use it in your marketing. It's for you. It's for you on the days that you may have a tough meeting coming up. You're not having the best day. Then maybe your computer, or as I said to Linda this morning, my curling iron busted and I don't feel really great. You're going to have those days. You get caught in traffic on your way to a presentation or a pitch or something. And you're like, oh my gosh, and you start to get that monkey mind, the stuff in your head that's going to weigh you down. Just stop and go, my unique brilliance is. And then you say that statement. It is something that you have been doing since you were a kid. So in my book, there's an exercise called the AHA exercise. And I talk people through the 3 different periods of their life and the moments that they wished could last forever. So even in childhood, if I want you to think back to when you were 6 years old, what were you doing that made time stand still? Remember that moment and then ask yourself, what did I do in order to make that happen? And how did I feel? That will start to show you, you know what? I still do that today. If you organized a bunch of kids to play football when you were younger and you're doing the same thing today, you're organizing people and giving them, delegating where they should go, you'll see that there's a parallel there. So unique brilliance in that case might be, hey, I am awesome at organizing people and getting things done with a great team. I'm awesome at team building. There are things that have been a theme throughout your life. What is that unique brilliance? That's part of your brand. What draws people to you? So often we don't even realize what this is. I'm kind of quirky. I do some like funny, weird things. I'm definitely not polished all the time. I mean, I just told you that I pointed out my hair is stringy because I'm pretty much that, right? And I used to think that made me less than because I was constantly in Hollywood around these people that seemed so polished and primped and, tucked and everything. And in reality, that's not what people were drawn to. People are drawn to the brokenness in us because that's human. So know what draws people to you. If it's your humor, let it shine. If it's your down to earthness, let it go. And you're like, well, hey, my competition doesn't do that. Excellent. Do it even more. What is your mission? These are the things that are on your heart. What is it that you most want to accomplish? Those 4 questions are going to help you so much. When you go through your touch points of your brand, do those things shine out? Do those things actually show up in how your voice sounds, in how your card looks, your website, and it's a journey. I get it. We're constantly changing the website, right? I don't know about you, but like every day I look at it and go, oh, I have to change that. Like today I just put up a video on the equine leadership page. I'm going to go back. I'm going to change it because I want to edit the video. Like I just can't keep my hands off of it. We all do that, right? Oh, thank you for telling me that my website is great. And then we often go, oh, I'm in the middle of redoing something, or we make excuses. We have to learn to say thank you and just keep making it feel like us, because that is where the magic is. That's where the magic is. So someone called you spunky, Deb. I love it. Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So when you're spunky, you are spunky. She says, that's the other, you're absolutely right on. That's so cool. Yes. They loved my irreverence. Now, where's Emma? How did you take that, Emma? Unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah. How did you take that?
Well, I am irreverent. So they were a bunch of therapists, psychological counselors and therapists. So they would be one of the audiences that I speak to. And so often therapists are very earnest and they're talking about the methodology and how we work with the client. And I'm there, listen, tell the woman to get her act together and get out there and do the thing and blah, blah, blah. Like I am very just get on with it, stop. And that was but actually all of them said it was one of the best trainings they were ever at, so energizing and etc. But irreverent was the word. It was kind of despite your irreverent sort of, it wasn't quite a full-on compliment.
Hey, like I said, you don't have to appeal to everybody. Everybody is not your market. Your market is only those people that you can serve because they love you. So yeah. What other feedback have you guys gotten that you maybe surprised you that somebody described you as such and then you realized later not so bad?
And I would agree with the feedback Emma got, but that's what makes her so refreshing. And that's what makes her so, attractive.
Yes.
People want to hang out with her because she's authentic and genuine and she speaks her mind. And whatever your feedback you're receiving from Emma, it's absolutely, authentic and true to her perspective. She's not going to beat around the bush. And I love that. Just like I love Deb's spunkiness. I probably used that term with Deb before.
I was looking up Sandra's website as we were talking and whatever, and looking at her coaching, because nowhere on either of our business websites am I anywhere really to be seen. There's a video and there's a thing, but in terms of this personal branding and selling the business,
yeah,
my spunkiness and my irreverence and my, you know, my unfiltered way of speaking and my directness, like none of it is there. It's all like, it is quite blah, 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 blah. And this is, well, you know, it's not, but
Yeah.
so I know I need some help in that area to actually marry me with my business. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here today. Like, you know.
Yes. See, the goal is to be able to go onto your website or look at a headshot that you're sending off to somebody if you're going to be interviewed for a podcast and be happy about sending people those things, you know, to be like, yes, I'm excited. Go look and be proud of it. And for so long in the beginning, when I was trying, I did the big mistake I think that a lot of entrepreneurs make when they're trying to brand themselves is they model themselves too closely to someone else. It's one thing to emulate someone that's successful in your industry, but to actually, like, I was an actress. So for a while, I actually I remember one time I made a video and I looked at somebody that was big in a relatively close field to me. And I did a video walking like her, talking like her, and doing all this stuff. And it was awful. I mean, there were crickets and it felt icky. And I soon burned it. Like, I wanted nothing to do with that video because it was so not me. It was awful. And so to be able to really love who you are and go, hey, this is what I'm all about. If it's not for you, that's totally cool. But here you go. And you will find those people that really love that. And if they want to be safe and they want to be coddled, Emma, maybe they're not going to come to you. That's okay. You don't really enjoy working with people that would be like that anyway. That's it. This is about bringing people to you that you actually want in your business. So, Bridget, what is something that people have described you as that maybe surprised you? I'm calling you out.
I just put it in the chat. One said to me, what was that? No, when others capitulate, then Bridget begins to unfold. So it's usually when others give up, I start really running full gear. So I'm always out for finding solutions to make things happen, and I will not give up until I found the solution. So that is usually, I'm more fraught with fear because I'm also coming from this side of, suffering from this imposture. I'm not good enough, and it resonated so much what you said at the beginning because my mom said the same thing about me. So she still told me that life would have been different if I were not born. So this is hard to take. And when you also hear that as a grown-up, it hurts even more so because you're working with that and you try to overcome that. So, yeah. And then if someone says that I begin to unfold when others capitulate, it seems like that I have a willingness to find solutions and to make things happen and to kind of help others to shine. And what you said about own your brilliance, I'm also now, with all my background and my personal story, I'm going into personal branding, and I start my first digital personal branding course, and the course is titled Own Your Brilliance.
Yay!
And so I was very, very happy to hear that you're also using that term so much because it just is so full of meaning to me. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I see that in you and I think it's beautiful. And as you say, like when others give up, I picture you running.
Yes.
And like, you know, I picture you pulling away from the pack as the people are slowing down and just being the one to cross the finish line, you know, which is so great.
And it's my time.
Yeah. I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome. And, you know, there are those things that we can identify, that stuff that we've been fed, right? Because like your mom gave you something very similar. And we do have those lies that are we think that we have them conquered, that they're put away. And then all it takes is maybe a piece of criticism and boom, we're right back there again.
Absolutely.
And you look and go, dang, I thought I got rid of that.
And
right?
you're right back where you started.
But here's the thing.
And you rebound much quicker.
Yes.
You find a way to overcome it. You learn from it.
Yes.
And that is the beauty. And it becomes easier and easier.
It does. It does become easier because you identify, oh, I just slipped into that It becomes, instead of a chasm or a cave that I fell into, it became a hole, and then it became a pothole. And then it was just like stepping off a curb. I'm like, oh, that hurt. Okay, I got it. And it is a process, but that's one of the reasons I think people are afraid when I say you have to be brave to put your authentic self out there as part of your brand, because not everyone is going to like it. You're going to get criticism. If you say, hey, I stand for this no matter what, you're going to get criticized.
Yeah, so you are vulnerable, but this is part of being authentic.
Yes.
I think when you show that, then you are a human being, and that is the key, how you connect with the other people, with everyone else.
It's true. That's what we see. We see ourselves in you when you do that. And as far as the critics, if you ever are afraid, if you find yourself being afraid of criticism, remember this. And I've heard the quote before. Pastor Rick Warren said it in his podcast or whatever, not too many days ago, but I was reminded, I don't know if he came up with it, but I've heard it before. It said, if you want to avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, believe in nothing, be nothing. That's not an option for anybody here. Yeah.
What a wonderful way to wrap up today's conversation. Wow, that is such a powerful
you guys are great.
Summary. I love that. Yeah, really beautiful. And so, Sandra, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank you. You have provided such incredible insight, such rich dialogue around this whole issue of authenticity and authentic leadership. And so thank you. For those of you that joined us maybe a few minutes late, we had the pleasure of speaking with Sandra Dee Robinson, who most of you know as a television actress, but she is also a speaker, a trainer, the founder of Charisma on Camera, as well as Charismatic Cowgirl Leadership Training. And she's the author of Impact, Secrets to Powerful Personal Presence on Camera and Off. Sandra has very generously given us a bit of a gift in the chat. So be sure you copy the chat, click on the link, and capture the incredible gifts that she's offered the people that are a part of today's conversation. And I'm Linda Fisk, the CEO of Leadership Global. And I got to tell you, I am so thankful that I was able to share the brilliance, the unique brilliance of Sandra Dee Robinson with all of you. I am absolutely thrilled that all of you carved out an hour to spend with us today in this really impactful and important conversation. I would invite you to reach out to Sandra if you'd like to learn more about her coaching, learn more about her programs. And as I noted, we have the privilege of having a weekend retreat with Sandra September 24th through the 26th. In the chat, I included the link. And if you're interested in joining us with Sandra to go through an entire weekend of equine therapy, we'd love that. We're going to be talking about how to reveal your authentic self, your authentic leadership through the therapy of working with horses. So I can't wait for this weekend. It would be a pleasure to meet each and every one of you personally. And Sandra, again, so grateful, so thankful, so appreciative of the time that you've given all of us and the incredible wisdom that you've shared with us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Mary Beth just put in, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what a ship is for.
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right, ladies. Well, I hope all of you, and gentlemen, have an absolutely beautiful rest of your week. And again, if you're interested in learning more about Leadership Global, please get in touch with me. And if you'd like to learn more about all of Sandra's amazing workshops and coaching and programs, please don't hesitate to reach out to her. I will tell you, she is much more accessible and she is much more responsive than you would expect of someone of her caliber and stature. She is remarkably responsive, and she's gracious and generous with her time as well as her insights. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all very much for joining today's conversation.
Thank you guys. Great to see you all. Thank you.